Hey, be careful with that. That's the most powerful tranq gun on the market. Huh, got her in Mexico. Cool. Yeah, it is cool. They say it can puncture the skin of a rhino from 100... Ow! Oh! Yes! That's awesome! What? You just took one in the jugular, man! Whoa!
All right, everybody, welcome back to another week of Muskies on Tap, bringing to you episode 78. I am your host tonight, one of the hosts from the Muskies on Tap crew, Gus Manti. We'll be discussing a good amount about the 2024 Muskie Battle, Wisconsin Muskie Battle that was just hosted here at Buckatabon Lodge in Conover, Wisconsin. And we're also going to talk about some other fall fishing stuff. We have a few special guests here on tonight that we'll get into here shortly. But before I get any further, let's introduce the other members here on tonight. So without further ado, I'll introduce my very own brother, Max Manti. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, a little sick, so I apologize if my voice sounds a little whack tonight, but other than that, doing good. I'm sipping on a little electrolyte drink here, trying to recover from the Muskie Battle weekend. I think it got the best of me. I'm not sure if not sure if the sickness came from a lack of catching fish or what I could actually attribute to. Maybe the good amount of beers that were actually drank as well could have factored into that too. What's up, Gus?
I just wanted to add, I didn't say it before, I am not sipping on anything, just water because it is currently 8:30 p.m. late October, and I think it's still above 70 degrees. Got to stay hydrated here. And I think over the weekend there was enough bush peaches, drank to uh, go forth for this podcast.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Well,
you know what I mean.
real fun. We're a real fun bunch tonight. No, but yeah, a little under the weather here this evening, but still here. Every podcast is the most important podcast, so we're gonna battle through this. Really looking forward to chatting with our guests here tonight. But before we get to them, let me introduce none other than the Mr. Brian Eckel. Brian, how we doing tonight?
I'm doing terrific. Had a blast seeing all you guys this past weekend. Yeah, Max, I don't know if it was the beers that got to you. I'm thinking it was more so our 3.5 hours of sleep on the couch Friday night that probably got you sick in the long run. But
Yeah.
that was a rough Saturday morning, and then yeah, didn't have a ton of action and tough conditions up there. So we'll get into that coming up here. But before I go any further, let's introduce these two guests tonight. None other than Tyler Schlabsz and Alex McLean back on for the second time. How we doing, guys?
How's it
Doing
going,
good.
fellas? Doing good.
Doing good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for coming back on. And here tonight, let's chat about kind of you guys' thoughts on northern Wisconsin. To our knowledge, I know that was your first time in Vilas County. So what were your thoughts kind of going into this year's battle?
I thought we were gonna crush fish. I thought it was gonna be
We all did.
thought it was gonna be a hell of a weekend. Still was, but fishing was pretty tough for everyone. But beautiful area, can't complain. It's nice seeing everyone there, meeting some new people. But yeah, fishing was tough.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what to expect overall. I have never been to northern Wisconsin at all. Um, Everyone always, hypes up the Northwoods and just we always talk on podcasts. It's like, well, these, everyone we've got like just, giant muskies in Minnesota, not that far away. But everybody just wants to go back to the Northwoods. And so I was really curious, really interested in the trip. Um, got there and our excuse me, our first our first instinct, I guess, was like pick the lake that looks best on a map, and we didn't really know anything about any of those lakes, and just go out do a little pre-fishing. We got there Thursday afternoon, and I really did love the area. Just the drives alone, all those beautiful paved roads through all the trees, the forest. It's just a very interesting, cool area with all the lakes. Loved it a lot. Would definitely go on vacation there, take a family trip there anytime for sure. Um, anyways, we went out for our only day of pre-fishing for the afternoon, and we immediately like started moving fish left and right. Like whoa, wow, yeah, this is real. This really is as hyped up as everyone says. There's fish all over the place. We even moved two fish that, one was probably 48 and a half ish range. And then to seal the deal kind of on the end of the night, we just missed and moved a fish I'm absolutely certain was probably 51 or more by wide. It was just I thought it was in Minnesota again. It was really shocking, surprised. So we were going into the battle like, oh man, we knew it was a lake draw the format that we set up. So we were like desperate to draw that lake. Didn't work out in our favor, and yeah, overall fishing got really tough through the weekend in those kind of blistery conditions. But overall, yeah, it's such a blast traveling to new areas and getting together with all the guys.
For sure. Yeah, we'll kind of go into that like lake group choosing that we had there. I think we might have discussed it last week with Kyle and Tyler, but to kind of rehash that, it's basically we had 25 people, 12 teams, one team had three, and we drew out of a hat these three lake groups where we had one that was, a common musky lake, which is just Buckatabon, where everybody could fish. That's where we're staying. We're staying on at Buckatabon Lodge. And then there was
Shout out.
a shout
Shout
out.
out.
There was the smaller lakes that we just called Action, or you could just call smaller lakes. And then there's larger lakes that we just called Trophy. And each of them kind of were different to add up to about the same acreage, I think was kind of the thought process in that. And I know that one of the lake that you guys went to go fish Thursday on the way in was part of one of the lake groups, and you were really rolling the dice on a, 1 in 3 chance to pick that, which is definitely dicey because if you don't, you guys had all those fish pinned, and then you got to go into a new lake and figure it all out from right from ground zero, and it wasn't exactly easy on Friday for the fact that it was roaring winds out of the northwest, making some of those larger lakes quite difficult to fish on basically most of the area. Um, but and and honestly, yeah, you guys moving all those fish. I think that was the night, Max, you joined up in the boat, and we had a bunch of fish moving. We got two to eat suckers, landed one. I will quick touch on the one that Tyler caught that really
Tricked us
got
all.
us. Yeah, so there's a musky battle chat, and we man, I think we had a bunch of fish moving. It was me, Max, Kyle Friedges, and Tyler Eggenberger all fishing in the same boat, doing the mega boat, and we had a ton of fish moving on suckers and all that throughout the day, and we just couldn't get one to bite. And then finally the first one to bite was like at 4 p.m. or something like that, or sometime late in the afternoon. And it was on like a deuce or something like that. Tyler hooks up and it's maybe 30 inches or so. And we were just trying to catch a fish that day because the podcast just released. We wanted to catch a fish so that we could all be in it together and release it. And that's what we would post. So that's why the last week's podcast post was a tiny little dink fish, but it was caught that day. So it made it very, very special, and we were hooting and hollering pretty crazy over a very, very small fish. But thankfully we did get some sucker bites after that. But no, I was on the same page as you guys. I thought the bite was only gonna improve because prior to that, the bite has been extremely tough and legs kind of battling a turnover a little bit. The cold snap, I think, finally settled it in. But I believe the lakes that you guys were on, both of them, the one you drew and the one prior, they were totally done with turnover, right?
I mean, even if that lake turns over, just because I feel like
Well, it's
most of
got
it's 15 feet.
it had some basins, so but
Mhm.
yeah,
Oh,
that
true.
I think that it was tough to say. Honestly, it was a hard time gauging things because the water was clear for the most part, but there were some sections of the lake that seemed kind of dirty and unfishable. I don't know if I remember going over that because
Yeah.
we hit some different spots and I personally I just do not, I'm such a Minnesota boy. I just don't like dirty water. I don't like fishing it. I lose confidence in it when I can't see my bait 5 inches under the surface, and it's just different. It is different. Um, I don't think it was like a matter of like us just not being familiar with the styles of fishing and these styles of lakes. I just think I think it was a matter with, I don't know, some sort of conditions that just affected the fish. And we found some fish and we did everything we could to go on those fish, back on those fish during, proper moons, everything like that. And they just wouldn't leave belly to bottom. And I don't really have an explanation for why. I mean, yes, we had that blistery northwest wind, a lot of wind going on out there. So it did kind of limit us, especially on day one. But we still were able to find some fish. Just a totally different style of lake, though. I mean, we've got like it's not weed choked, but it seems like there are unmapped giant sections of weeds all over the
It was
place.
not sucker friendly. I'll say that.
Yeah. I
We were
spent
pulling.
probably
Yeah.
15 hours pulling weeds off the suckers that we would
Were there
pull up onto.
were there floating weeds out there by chance?
Uh, on like the windblown sides, yeah, but not like
Yeah,
too bad. No,
wasn't terrible, yeah, but there was some.
it was
Okay,
just
'cause
like new to me with like we were on the east side of the lake and it was clear for the most part, and then we
yeah,
just go around the corner of an island and like Alex said, you couldn't see more than like a foot.
That's why
yeah,
I
You could
was
no.
barely see your bait, so I
that's
was
why I
just
was
like,
kind of questioning turnover, yeah, because like so the east side, this east and southeast side was actually the wind blown side, and it was clearer than the side that the wind was blowing out of, where it was calmer. So that was very
Hmm.
strange.
That is weird because like the water's low right now, so there's really not much of a current. Any current you deal with is all wind related. And so I don't fish that lake a lot, and I've really never been there much in the fall, especially this late. I do know I've been there in September, and I know it blooms pea soup for the most part. So I wonder if it's battling that, trying to get rid of that. I mean, I know that even the Eagle River chain out here is still green. Um, Anywhere that blooms up kind of stays green. I feel like until like that mid 40s temps where they actually go to clear again. But yeah, I know that's probably tough with the dirty water because uh, for us, we tend to look for dirty water. It doesn't really give as many follows, but it usually gives more bites because, we want fish to ambush without them knowing that we're there. And I feel like dirty water, less light penetration and more odds of fish kind of stacking up on weed edges, if that's kind of where they're at still, especially for that lake, since there's not really much other than some weird structures and pretty much just weeds, weed humps after weed humps after weed humps. So, um, was there anything in particular that you're looking for on the map, say, going to a new lake, or maybe even touch on the lake you fished
well, we
pre-fishing?
were just looking for, well, I guess with the lake that we fish, we noticed those like deeper holes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean
we liked those right away. I think that kind of caught our eye and we wanted to fish like the edges of that.
it's a
Um,
natural habit to want to fish deeper edges, deeper sandgrass, things like that, because that's a majority of what we're fishing a lot in Minnesota these days. Our shallow, we have much shorter periods of the year now with all the fishing pressure and everything, where the fish are pulling up onto shallow structure and they're very transient doing so. When they do pull up, it's for very short periods, and then they're either moving back out into the open water or on the deeper edges of more grassy area. So it's just kind of like natural habit to go seek that stuff out first. But then honestly, the electronics on my boat are, I feel like they're really dialed in well. And not talking about live scope either, because obviously the Musky Battle is no live scope, but my side imaging,
Your
really
pictures were
really easy
very
to,
clear.
yeah, really easy for me to find or locate fish with side, and as well as bait. And we were finding huge quantities of the bait, whether it's bluegills, crappies, all stacked up, especially with the cold wind. It was really easy to find them really stacked up together. And we were finding that in those deeper, kind of neck down areas. So that's where we gave a lot of our time, and that is where we marked and had a lot of our fish chasing. But then yeah, day two, we when that wind laid up a little bit, we did more exploring, and I don't know, it was just tough. It was just tough all around. If fish didn't want to move around too much, they were buried and belly to bottom for most of the time. But nonetheless, I did find that lake, to be just, I would consider it like a beautiful lake. I really enjoyed the scenery out there and bouncing around, because it is big enough to really get a good change of scenery no matter where you're going. Um, Tried to take it all in the last day before we left, but there was, right in our neck down spot where we were finding fish, there was a guy that was leaf blowing all his
Unreal.
stuff into
It
the
was so
water
bad.
for about 3 hours. Just
Was
so
it the guy off that island
it
or
was.
shore?
Yes.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, I've seen that before.
He blew the whole island off for like
Just
3 hours,
nonstop.
and I'm like, man, I just want
Loudest.
Dude.
just trying to get some peace here as the battle winds down to an end.
It's the
God,
loudest leaf blower I've ever
Lovely.
heard.
That's
That
so
that is a
so
gorgeous
funny.
lake. It's got like really cool lowlands and then some hills and creek flows, and I don't know, it's super cool. I plan in the future to learn it a little bit more. It's not too far for me for the most part. I know it's got some good bites throughout the year, but it definitely sucks that they were belly to the bottom. One thing I was gonna ask you is, since we were fishing another large lake too, and I know mainly in Minnesota you pretty much have large lakes. Do you see oftentimes like some days you'll go out there and they are just straight up off, like you can't find a single fish to maybe get a shot at, where like you go to a lake in Minnesota that you like and say you fish it for 5, 6 hours, you get to fish it through a moon, maybe 2 moons, and you just like they're just not moving. Does that happen very often? Or are you usually able to find like a bite? Because I've seen it a lot in Wisconsin, where some of these lakes up here, when they're totally shut off, there's almost nothing you can do except bass fish or walleye fish to potentially catch a muskie out there. It gets so tough. But then all of a sudden, like a light switch, and as we showed you, that lake can absolutely fire off, and Jim Bob Joe can whack a 48 on a sucker. So
Yeah, I knew they were in there. I knew they were in there. I know we'd cracked some jokes about the difficulty of it here and there, but I know the fish are in there, and I do think it was just one of those light switches that was off and just didn't want to flip on for the 2 days that we were there. And yeah, we get the same thing in Minnesota. Absolutely. Wouldn't you say that so, Tyler? There's just
Yeah. I mean,
there's
that's why, I think in our first podcast with you guys, we were talking about like how often Alex and I hop around from lake to lake. Like,
mhm.
doesn't take too long for us to kind of At least I don't think so, to realize like, yeah, the bite's just not going on, whether it be marking fish on side and not getting like any follows or whatnot, or just the follows you're getting, they're like super lazy or whatnot, and kind of get the idea that I don't think a moon or anything's going to change anything, and weather, we don't have a front or anything coming in, so let's hop to another lake and see if it's different, which is nice about your area, because
Right.
you can go 10 minutes and you're at another lake, and then another 10 minutes at another lake. So there's only a couple spots in Minnesota where you can go from one lake to
Yeah.
another within under an hour. So
Mhm.
we do put quite a few miles on, or put a bunch of miles on to find fish, but I think it makes it worth it.
Yeah. And that's what I was, that's kind of what I was just gonna say is like, typically for us, if we do go through like a moon phase or go for a couple hours without seeing what we want to see, we will hop to a different lake and try to figure it out there. And I think that's kind of one of the, what makes, I guess, quote unquote, tournament fishing or competitive fishing, very challenging, and also like can be really difficult is when you are on certain systems that are just completely turned off, and you don't have that ability to kind of bounce around, as we were seeing most of the lakes um, in the battle for whatever reason were just really difficult. I mean, I think the fishing was fairly tough for most people up in Vilas County last week, and I know were some fish caught and some people did okay. And it looked like some of the fish that were caught were pretty large. So you're kind of talking about those like 1 to 2 bite days. And I mean, I don't know exactly. I can't still I was trying to kind of look back and see like why the bite shut off. I mean, I think it just in general, it's been a really weird fall, and I've been joking with Gus that I've been kind of on the brutal end of it. Like it's like every time I've kind of come up to the North Woods to do a muskie trip this fall, fishing's just been really tough. And then I'll be going home on Sunday night and Gus will be out on the water and he's sending me pictures of, 2, 3 fish nights, or the next day, 4 or 5 fish day. And I'm sitting at the office just going, what the heck do I got to do to catch a weekend where these fish are going? And it's just been hilarious. I mean, so I definitely feel you guys' pain. I was really hoping, and I really thought that after that warm up earlier in the week and then the cold snap that was happening during the battle was going to do well for everybody. The only thing I can really think of is every single day the weather was different enough where I just don't think those fish ever settled in that post turnover funk. Like you had the random big warm up to start the week. And then Thursday, that first day when it kind of cold snapped, was good. The fish were moving and biting. The wind was coming. I can't remember from what direction that day. I believe the south.
Southwest still.
Southwest, yeah.
And then,
Yeah, shifted
Friday it flips to a
north.
gale force north wind.
Oh, that's right.
Um,
Thursday. Yeah,
pr-
yeah, it was southwest.
the pressure started to rise pretty badly on Friday, I noticed. But even still, we were able to manage 2 bites, but they weren't, I mean, other than that, there was not much else going on for us. And then Saturday, it just felt like we were seeing a lot of what you guys were seeing with fish belly to the bottom. I mean, we got 2 fish up to the boat, and I was joking with people I was talking to after. The 2 fish we moved were on the minute of the peak of the moon, each moon. So we only got 2 fish to move, and one was right away in the morning when I was still like,
Freezing.
well,
It's like
I was-
28 degrees.
Still waking up.
I was gonna say still quite hungover.
Oh, yeah, that too.
I look down at my glide bait and there's like a 45 incher that's built like a 4x4 coming in behind this glide bait, and I'm just like, is that real? Like, am I seeing things correctly right now? And I look down at Gus. I'm like, where are we at in moon here? And he goes, we're literally on peak moon. And that fish was still pretty lazy and never looked at a sucker. And then we proceeded to go the next, I don't know, 8 hours.
Yeah.
And we're side imaging a bunch of fish, and I literally turned to him and I go, well, almost peak moon, we should get a follow. Sure as shit, peak moon rolls around right before the sunset, like everything is lining up for a nice bite. Here comes a nice like 45, 46 coming in slow as hell on a Medusa right at peak moon. And at that point, I pretty much just threw my hands up and I'm like, there is absolutely nothing we can do to get these fish to go right now. Like this is absurd. So I know fishing can get bad up in the Northwoods, and like I don't think the hype that you guys had was totally misplaced because there are weekends where it can be extremely good, where it's like you'll have 4 or 5 bite, 6 bite days. Um, but it just wasn't in the cards for us this weekend. So it's that part of it. I think when you have so much expectations and anticipation leading up to this muskie battle, like Gus said, we've been in group chats, we've been giving each other shit for, almost a year now. And you kind of just want to go up there and smash fish. We're sharing information, we're, helping everybody out. Like you think we'd be able to put together a bite. Everyone there was a really good muskie angler. And, it just, when the results are what they were, it's like, man, I just don't know if we could have really done anything else. Like it just kind of was what it was. So I don't know. That's a little bit of a ramble, but that's it's just yeah.
I would wholeheartedly agree with that entire evaluation, and we had the same experience with the peak of the moon. Like that's when our fish were moving, but lazy, even really lazy, just inspecting the suckers and then moving on. Right at peak, and then after that, disappeared, buried, belly to bottom, 8 hours straight. Nothing you could do. Tyler set the hook into a large walleye on a 12-inch jerkbait, and that got us pretty fired up. But
Oh yeah,
um,
she tasted good.
yeah.
Just kidding.
But yeah, no, I agree. I think, we've had sort of the same experience over here in Minnesota lately too before the battle. So that's what had me most excited was to go to Wisconsin, is because it's actually been kind of a struggle the last couple of weeks here in Minnesota with these, kind of drastic heat waves and then drastic drops, without, without stability, the fish just don't want to respond.
I
So
mean, we even heard people going to the Eagle River chain this weekend and getting blanked, which is, with
Not good.
suckers and few
Yeah.
people casting, like something's up if that's happening.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, even a place like that can shut down, as we've seen, which is rare, very rare.
Did Tyler or Alex, did you guys have visual follows or anything following your sucker? I know you were pulling weeds off it a
Um,
lot, but
we had I think like 1 or 2 visual follows on baits, and then like our best tactic was we'd mark a fish on side, and then either just start going super slow over the top of it or just spot lock, and then
yeah,
that's
it
when
got to the point where we were, especially out of moon, like we knew it was super shut down. So we were working breaks, and every time we'd side image one, I'd be like, okay, we're spot, because the wind was so heavy. So we immediately spot locked and sat there with the suckers
try to
for
hand feed it to him.
basically hand
yeah,
feeding them. Yeah. And they chased a little bit, but that was about it.
yeah.
large Marge was not hungry.
And I can even remember our a really good bite that we got on Friday also came to the minute of peak moon right at like
Sucker bite,
the
yeah.
sucker bite. We were going through a spot, we knew there was fish, and I kept asking Gus, where are we at in the major, or where are we at in the minor, where are we at in the minor? And yep, rolled right around in peak, and sucker rod went off. We never saw the fish. And funny enough, I mean, we were drifting downwind, so we probably had thrown multiple casts at that fish, and
Mhm.
it didn't eat the boat side sucker. It ate the sucker that was 60 feet off the back of the boat. So it just kind of came out of nowhere, and um, you know, she had a good.
Fortunately, did not get hooks into that one. Looking back at the footage, the rod loaded fully, and then the harness just came flinging right out of the water, and that harness went so fast back on top of the water again. after you yelled whatever you yelled. Damn it.
Well, I was just so
Something.
frustrated. I mean, I knew after going that many hours without a bite and then you finally get one and you miss it, it's just like I want to jump in the water.
And not sorry to bring it up, not to mention Thursday. I
Oh
was
yeah.
going to sucker
Yep.
as well.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry for
Yeah.
bringing that up again.
Brian, don't you have a good sucker story from the battle?
Yeah, let's hear
Yeah,
the
yeah, I was
Friday
just gonna get into
for
that.
you guys.
That was actually I think pretty much to the minute of the major, which was around the same time I think Gus, you got ripped on a
Uh,
beaver, I believe.
it was moon set, and that to the minute was when we got the sucker bite, and I think it was about an hour after moon set I got hit
Okay.
on a beaver, and
Yeah, it was
that's
around
when
like
you
5,
5:15,
yeah, somewhere around there.
half hour
Yeah,
before
we
dark.
I was out with Charlie Scott fishing with him. Shout out to Charlie.
Shout out.
Great
Yeah.
guy to be on the boat with. We had about as good time as we could have with the poor fishing conditions. But yeah, I got up there a little bit late on Friday. Hopped on the
It's a
boat
good
with
partner
him.
right there.
Yeah. And yeah,
Knew about this for how long?
I didn't know like any details until like 2 days before. I was like, all right, what's going on? Yeah, poor planning on my part. Anyways, we had a
Way to
similar
take it.
game plan to you guys. We were targeting deep water, kind of going around like mid lake humps surrounded by deep water or points coming off the shoreline with a steep break on one side. And we marked a ton of bait where the wind had been pounding in for a couple days in a row, but we didn't mark any muskies over there. We fished it, dragged suckers, didn't see a single breath of life, but it was just littered with bait. So I don't know, belly to bottom muskies, they're not even moving with the bait, I guess. So that's not a good sign, but we found kind of a pack, I guess, of muskies on the leeward side of the wind, sitting in sort of a neck down adjacent to a point coming out from shore. And yeah, around whatever it was, like 5:15-ish, our sucker out in like 20 feet of water starts zipping line, pretty hard, pretty aggressive, and it took us like a minute to track him down, get over the top of him. And Charlie was the man on the rod for this one. And yeah, it definitely turned the head and started running away from the boat right as we got over top of it. And Charlie just laid into it and like immediately, right at full tension, just popped straight out. And it ended up snapping the line, and we're still not sure as to exactly what caused that. It could have
Oh
been
no.
that the whole, I mean, the harness is huge. So somehow maybe it wrapped the harness back through his mouth and had a little bit of the line on one of her teeth. But um, yeah, kind of heartbreaking there, especially if we knew that we wouldn't really have another shot going into the next day as well. So
Yeah.
but and then yeah, Saturday was absolutely dead all day, and then right at sunset again around like that 5 o'clock-ish time. Charlie moved like one or two fish on a swimming dog, which then kind of followed around the sucker and then never ate, never to be seen again. So
Rough.
Unfortunately, that sucker situation can happen to the best of us. I don't know if it's because, sometimes sucker fishing the actual, braid can just gets a little bit slack line in there, mid water, especially when those suckers are running away from fish, and the muskies just kind of halfway swing and miss. I don't know.
yeah,
I have an old video clip of this identical thing happening to me. It's I look back at it now and it's hilarious. And so I went up. The first thing I did was go up to Charlie and just show him that clip, and he's like, "Oh my, I feel so much better right now." So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, this sucker fishing is really fun when it all works out, and it is really, really not fun when it doesn't. We went out, Brian, Gus, and I went out and spent some time in the boat on Sunday, and like pretty early on in the day, we actually got a pretty nice fish to eat a sucker, and we saw the fish, and we're in the boat, and Brian and I are talking, like Gus is like, "Who wants it? Who wants it?" And I look at Brian, and I'm like, dude, I've been up here for 4 days. I haven't caught a fish. Brian's like, well, I haven't caught a fish in like, I haven't caught a sucker fish in 2 years. Like, we're going back and forth. And Gus is like, who wants it? Like, somebody please tell me. Like, I'm going to set the hook on
Like
this fish.
Spider-Man with the guns out.
So yeah. So Brian goes like, all right, quick game of rock, paper, scissors. And like literally like 3 rounds later, finally he wins.
Good Lord.
And so we're like quickly doing rock, paper, scissors in the front of the boat for who gets to take the sucker. Brian ends up winning. He goes, gets over the top of the sucker. He's like, I think it's running away. I think it's running away. Swing and miss. So now, at this point, we're like we're like 1 for 4, 1 for 5 on sucker eats. And like, I was kind of joking around. I'm like, I'm so happy that I did not win that game of rock, paper, scissors. Cause if I would have missed another sucker fish, I think I would have been in a freaking straitjacket.
Yeah.
Like I was so done with losing fish on suckers. Like I hope to get some redemption at some point in time this fall. But yeah, when you miss those sucker fish, it's like it's just not a good feeling.
I really think we got to find a way to change it up other than buying suckers, because last year was very rough sucker bite as well. Like they would just follow it and stare at it, like they can see the big wire harness. And
I mean, it was, but Gus, how many sucker fish did you put in the boat last year? Like we said, it was rough, but
25 or something like that.
that's a lot. That's a lot.
But,
I just remember
but none were
our
big.
fall-
And that
yeah.
was unfortunately, everyone. It seems like a lot of people end up catching the bigger fish on suckers. And yes, we did catch a lot last year, but I don't know if there was a sucker fish over 42 caught out of those fish. But I don't think there was a fish under 37. And all of the 42 pluses were caught trolling. And I did equal amounts probably of the two.
I mean,
So-
it could be just condition, dependent for their fish just following suckers. I mean, our musky bender last fall, I don't remember what our count. We stopped counting, and we had to have had 50 fish come up and just follow the sucker
It
and
was
leave.
stupid. Yeah, it was ridiculous. And
So, I
early
don't
this
know.
fall was freaking outstanding. Every single sucker fish that ate the sucker, we landed, and then all of a sudden we missed one. And I was like, uh-oh, here's the first loss of the year after I think we probably landed 4 or 5 before that. So I was feeling really good about the percentage. And it is what it is. It's not going to land every single one every fall. And then catch another one, and then we lose another one. We had hooks bend out again, and then this and that. And then before you know it, it's not good. Like the rest of this October, we've lost a ton of fish on suckers. So they're kind of eating them, but not often through the day. You just get a shot usually per day. If the conditions are good, you usually get a shot, and we've not been making that happen, which is unfortunate because they are expensive.
Do you guys in Minnesota, you don't really use suckers too often, you're correct, because of the Cisco base?
Not up in like Alex's neck of the woods.
It's lake dependent. I love sucker fishing. This time of year, if I'm free, like this upcoming weekend or whatever, I'm always trying to go out sucker fishing. And we have a really good sucker bite in Minnesota too. But we do have to travel to some smaller lakes around here as well as like the western Minnesota area, or the metro for that matter. But
what makes those? What do you think makes those better than like your neck of the woods for sucker fishing?
I think it's just forage. There's in my neck of the woods, there's just an unbelievable amount of Cisco and whitefish. So we've tried it. Everyone on Earth has tried it. And yes, you may get very lucky and a fish decides to eat one day, but it's like one out of every 200 inspections of the sucker will one maybe slip up. I mean, they just want to eat Cisco's this time of year, and that's about it. So they're known as they're just not good. It's ineffective. You have a much better opportunity casting than
And
using
right, and you
suckers.
guys can't do both, so it
Mhm.
yeah makes sense.
And we did like that. We did enjoy that. For the first time in my life, I was able to drag suckers off the back while casting. So that was kind of freeing.
That
you
was
know.
nice. So I was
And
saying
even
if we do a Western Minnesota battle next year, Kyle brought up like, oh, people are either not going to cast or one person's going to have to be sitting there. And I was like, just run 3 deep in a boat, switch
That wouldn't be a
off,
bad
rotation.
idea.
Yeah, 3 deep
Yeah.
rotation. Yeah,
put it in the rotation.
teams of 3. Yeah.
Except for the Tinner boys. I don't know how they're going to make that work.
They're just
Oh.
gonna drift with 2 suckers and bail water. They can't cast.
Or despite all these
No time.
these sucker horror stories you guys just laid out there, what it sounds like, you guys didn't have the worst one this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think maybe we'll let that be or whatever for them to release what I'm certain will be a heartbreaking video to watch. But
Shout
Yeah.
out.
Team Kyle, Victoria, and Eggenberger. They unfortunately lost a very large fish at the net. They posted on Instagram already, so if people follow Kyle and I think Tyler posted it too.
they didn't put the video out, did they?
No,
No, just like a
video.
picture.
A picture of the
Oh,
fish on the bag, pancaked, folded
Oh.
into, popcorning right out of that thing. Just a damn shame because that was a tournament winning fish, because Brian and Charlie's fish, unknown size. The ones that we lost, Max, completely unknown size. The one that they had in the bag and out was we have video and that screenshot of how big it was, and it was, what they guesstimate, 45, but probably bigger. That thing had some
It was wide.
yeah.
it had
look
some
at that.
fat rolls
Juice-
on it that you
juice
can kind of
thick.
see. Yeah.
Hmm.
A lot of heartbreaks for a good amount of teams. There's a rough results, but I mean fish were hooked, but unfortunately for the battle results, big time majority were lost.
Yeah, I know Dan Scriver also lost one at the net, and we're kind of talking a lot about the bad situations that were happening over the last few days, but we should shout out Gus who won. If you want to maybe talk about who ended up taking home the battle and
Yeah.
and the 2 fish that were, maybe highlight the 2 fish that were caught.
So to my knowledge, well, not to my, sorry, congrats to Kyle Weeks and Adam Stark. I was jumping ahead on the story behind the second place fish.
Right.
Sorry. Congrats to Kyle Weeks and Adam Stark on the first place with a 41. Was it 41 exactly?
I also believe, I mean, Brian, you got to comment on this here. You had him as the
Yeah.
longest tournament odds to win.
18 to 1, I
Mhm.
believe.
Yeah, 18-1.
And they won it.
Yeah,
Hopefully
they
you put the
ended
house
up
on
winning
that.
it. Yeah, I was just trying to set up the public to take, a little freebie there and get some cash in their pocket. But yeah, it was kind of funny when I got there. He comes strutting over to me, sticks his hand out. I'm like, "Oh, hey, it's nice to meet you." And
Don't
yeah, gave him a little chip on his shoulder, and sure enough, caught a fish, and it was enough to win it. So shout out to those guys. Good work.
Shout out on a
Shout out.
Conklin glide. So that
Yeah.
got it done. And the other fish that was caught was also casting on was it a mag dog or a double dog? Does anybody remember?
Either one.
Not
Either,
sure.
yeah, something rubber with
Same
tails
bait.
and looked like a bulldog. That was David and Nick, David Dykowski and Nick. Does anybody know his last
Kaczynski
name?
or something?
Kaczynski. Yeah.
Shout out.
Shout out.
I believe the story goes, this is what I was jumping ahead before. The story goes that Nick was taking a nap of some kind, and
Yeah.
David sent a picture of pretty much a screenshot of him laying down in the boat and said this was 1 minute before he caught the fish.
Laying across the bow.
Just cashed out. So yeah,
I think
guess
he
they
said
got
it was like his second cast after waking
Yeah.
up.
unbelievable, like a splashdown eat or something like that. So yeah, 2 landed were casting, and it was a couple lost on the suckers. So yeah, big time results. So Kyle and Adam took home the biggest big fish and
Hell of a weekend.
trophy.
Yeah.
But do you want to give a shout out to Kyle and is it Dan that got the resort for us?
Yes.
Yeah, Kyle and Dan.
Shout out to those guys. Kyle did a hell of a job putting it all together with the itinerary and all that stuff. So do want to give him a shout out, even though it was tough fishing for everyone. It
That
was
stuff
very
is
yeah, very well put together.
no easy work doing all that work for sure.
Probably one of the better run tournaments I've ever been a part of. Maybe if not the best.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it was good. But we'll maybe we'll wrap up a little later on some musky battle chatter if you guys have anything more to add. But I did want to ask Alex while he was on here about his big time tournament victory just a little over a month ago, Frank Schneider Memorial Tournament. We briefly chatted on it, but I didn't get the full story, so I figured I'd use this opportunity to hear it from you and kind of how that all went down. And I mean, that's obviously a very large tournament. Sounds like it spans out across a handful of different systems. I was following along on the tournament app that they actually had made available to public, and so it was cool. I was kind of checking on it every, I don't know, a couple hours or so, just watching fish kind of filter in and watching your name climb up to the top of the leaderboard. And then I can't exactly remember the order of fish that you caught, but just to kind of see it stay there was pretty sweet. And yeah, so congratulations on that. And I'd love to hear kind of how it all got done.
Yeah, appreciate it. It's kind of a life happy moment for me. I've been fishing the Frank Schneider Memorial Tournament for a number of years now, at least probably a decade or so. And it's kind of a non it's a fundraising tournament. They do so much for our systems up here and stocking and local Muskies Inc. chapters and the Twin Cities Muskies Inc. is who puts on that tournament. It's a really large event. They usually have somewhere between 300 and 500 contestants each year. Always happens the weekend after Labor Day. I encourage anyone who's never fished it just to join it for fun. It's not a super competitive tournament or anything like that. Everyone just kind of goes in with the mentality of, okay, we've got a real grinder of a tournament. So it's a 3-day tournament. The first 2 days are 12 hours.
Wow.
And then the third day is, I think, 5 hours, somewhere between 4 and 6 hours. I can't remember, but it's a grinder. It's a long tournament. And really the only goal of that tournament is to catch a fish. It's an individual tournament. Granted, we know musky fishing is a team sport, and you're always trying to get your boat partner a fish as well. And being so it's an individual tournament overall, but the goal for everybody is simply to just try to catch a fish. It's a 40-inch minimum, and if you catch a fish, you get your name put into the grand prize drawing box. And at the end of the tournament, there's not really, they don't do like cash giveaways for first place or second place or any of the top people who place, but they do 3 very large cash grand prize drawings. So everyone's goal is just to go out there, have a good time, and try to get a fish in the net for each person in the boat, and that can get your name in the drawing. That's always been the goal, and that was our goal again this year. Went out there, and then they also have like post day feeds and people gather at the bar and have a good time and that sort of thing. And so that was our goal. We went there. We're like, okay, it's the Frank Schneider. It's back. Can't wait to see a bunch of familiar faces that always make the trip up for that and hang out at the bar afterwards and BS around. And day one started slow. I that week. So yeah, we've got like a lot of lakes that we can fish. I think it's like somewhere between 12 and if 18 lakes or somewhere in that range or something. And all the chains that are associated with some of those lakes. So I was doing a bit of pre-fishing on a number of different lakes, and I had settled on a lake close to me, um, where we were really just crushing the week before the tournament. Like we were on them, found where all the fish are pulling it on and off of, and we were getting fish to go daily. And I was kind of settled on that, and then but it's a smaller lake, so I was trying to gather how many people were going to be out there because I can, if there's too many people, it can have a big effect on how the lake plays out. And getting stuck on a small lake also, for 32 hours of muskie grinding in a row is without a change of scenery because you can't change once you pick one.
Oh.
You have to, it's
Oh,
there.
interesting.
Yeah, so there's zones. I mean, there's zones and you can't leave your zone. So this particular lake was in a zone of its own, and it wasn't a very big lake. So I made a last second audible to switch lakes to leech because I was like, you know what, we
So
can
different.
we can always find fish on leech. There's a lot more scenery and a lot more different types of structure, and we've got great, you know, reed bite. We got good weed bite. We've got rocks. We got good sand spot. We got a whole variety of structure to fish and a lot more scenery to get through the long weekend. So I made that last second call to audible there and changed the zone I was originally going to fish. Um, and day one, it started pretty slow. Uh, we contacted a few fish, but similar to Wisconsin lakes, leech is very, in my opinion, moon oriented. So we were really focusing every day on trying to lock down our traditional spots on moon, and it was just really slow. But then we had I think the first day was like an 11 o'clock moon, and right up to peak, I got the first fish to eat. I was fishing with my buddy who's got a new company. It's the Trophy Systems Bait Company. He makes these really cool hand poured and hand painted swim baits. And I was giving those a good go all weekend because that was also kind of one of our goals for the tournament is to get a fish or two on those. And the first fish ate the swim bait right on moon, just a 40-incher, but a lot of high fives. I got in the drawing, and at that point, I was good to go for the rest of the weekend. I just get to relax now, knowing I'm in the drawing, and breathe. And then we fished all day. The rest of the day, we didn't contact too much. It was another one of those days it felt really shut down. And then with 20 minutes to go on day one, we went to a heavy weeded area. It's just like large weed flats, kind of similar to the lake we were just on this past weekend in Wisconsin. And my buddy was throwing a Phantom glider, and I have, I just, I have for years just have a hard time getting myself to throw gliders when I know that they're just super underrated, especially in Minnesota these days. And he's just such a champion. The way he works them, I've never seen anyone that can work a glider as efficiently and as good as my boat partner. And he got a fish to come absolutely unglued with 20 minutes to go at the side of the boat. Literally smashed its head on the side of the boat when it came in and ate. So that was another 40, I think it was a 41 or 41 and a half incher. And so we both got in the drawing on day one. We were well behind after day one. There was an older guy in the tournament that had caught like a fifth, like three, I think maybe two or three, including a 50 or a 51, and then there was a couple other 50s, and then you got so many anglers on these big fish waters. A lot of big fish are bound to be caught. So we weren't really concerned about winning or anything at that point. We were just we were thrilled to be in the drawing and made our way to one of the resort bars that we know of. Shout out to Agency Bay Lodge, Bob Weeks. That guy is awesome. If you're ever looking for a family vacation in Minnesota, check out Agency Bay Lodge on Leech Lake. That place is the amount of catering they do for everyone, hard work they do for everyone, and overall experience there is it's amazing, incredible. I'll always recommend that place to anybody. Um, but then we just had a good late time after day one, good late time at the bar there, and did a little sleeping in on day two. Um, got to fishing. It was another slower start to the morning on day two. And then again, about that 11 o'clock moon, give or take 15, 20 minutes. I don't remember exactly what time it was, but it was right on that early day moon. Um, I had a 48 and a half, I believe it was. Yeah, 48 or 48 and a half. Come up, eat the same bait, and uh, just smashed me 10 feet out. And I was at that point, I was like, oh, and then the Frank Schneider has that live updates page that said you were following. And I'm like, I'm looking, I'm like, oh, wow, that happened quick. All of a sudden I'm in third place. Well, maybe now we should start really, really sweating and seeing if maybe, we could get another fish or whatever. And I don't remember the time frames that everything happened, but I think it was something like 2 hours later. We were fishing some of that deeper sandgrass stuff that I was talking about. The Leech is really really known for that. So some of their humps have a lot of grass, a lot of sandgrass on them. And it was like we had a I don't know a wind switch that just laid everything out nice and flat on the lake, and the sun peaked out. It got hot. It was like an immediate weather change, and I was pulling a ninja tube, no blades or nothing like that, just really just giving it hard pops off out of the sandgrass. And I see this giant come in, about 15 feet out from the boat, and it's just lazy, it's just kind of coasting in on it, not really fired up or anything. And I gave that tube like three extremely hard up rips, like bam, bam, bam. And she gave me the old fashioned tail wag right when that happened, and I knew it was on. And I brought her into the eight. I was Mach 10 figure eighting that. I wasn't popping it or anything. I was just straight pulling it, trying to keep it away from her as hard as possible.
Jeez.
I knew how big she was, and she went around about eight times. Didn't eat. I thought for sure she was going to commit on every turn, even the bad corners. And about the eighth time in the row, I said, "All right, we're going to try something here." And I popped it. I popped the bait like 1 inch out of the water on the top right hang, and the fish just it didn't even cut it off. It just straight up lowered itself and aerial ate the bait. It
That's
was the most
insane.
incredible,
Holy
if
shit.
not of my entire 22 years of musky fishing, that was probably maybe the most incredible figure eight bite I have ever seen.
Did you mean to pull it
It,
out of the water? Was that like part
yeah,
of the
well, I
tactic?
meant to pop it like at the surface just a little bit, like really get that pop at the surface with the tube, and it popped out of the water a little bit more than I had planned. So
Holy
I was
shit.
like, and it just aerial aided it, and I knew right away. I was screaming to my buddy Jock, like, dude, this is 52, this is 52 plus, like, let's. I'm shaking, I'm freaking out. Like I knew this was going to put me in a real good shot for the tournament, if not the tournament win at that point, because it was overall a slower weekend. There not too many fish were contacted. We had some strange weather going on, some strange weather changes. But we got her safely in the bag, just screaming, high-fiving, like one of the coolest things we'd ever witnessed. He's just like, holy shit, that was incredible, and that put me into first, and we went back to the same weed flat that we were on day one, with 20 minutes or half an hour to go again on day two. And he pulled out his Phantom glider, same one, and a second 41-inch fish came unglued in the identical fashion. Just right at his feet, head shaking, epic figure 8 bite on the glider, and he got his second fish, which pulled him into 10th. And then day 3 was just extraordinarily tough conditions, just like this past weekend, where none of the fish wanted to respond to anybody on the lake. I think like it was so minimal how many fish were caught out of 300 people, like less than 5 or something like that
Oh,
on day 3. It was that difficult. So we felt pretty good. But when that time is ticking and you're waiting for for the
how
clock
many
to.
times did you check that app?
Oh, I kept saying, you know what? And I stood strong on day 3, and I didn't check the app for the last hour and a half. I didn't. I was like, we just got to keep fishing. Just got to keep fishing. And there's so many there's so many good anglers in that tournament, like just so many, and so many that all they needed was just one bite, 140-incher just to surpass. But I was lucky enough to hold on, and that's always been my favorite tournament in all of musky fishing. Not for the extreme competitiveness, but just for the overall aura around it, and the meaning behind it, and Frank Schneider, the history itself, and those guys at Twin Cities Muskies Inc., Denise Olson, Casey Friskney, all those guys, they put in so much hard work to get that tournament on. So I do want to shout out to them as well. The things that they do for the fisheries and everything is just incredible. So yeah, I was very ecstatic. That was a lifetime achievement for me. And then I was lucky enough to, not only win the tournament, but to also get the big fish replica of the tournament. But then I also managed to draw the grand prize cash drawing out of everybody that caught a fish, which was like 70 something fish or 80 something fish.
When you're hot, you're hot.
You gotta go to the casino that
So,
night.
yeah,
Jeez.
yeah. So just the full trifecta of luck there. So
That's
really,
unbelievable. How big
yeah.
was the fish?
It was a 52.
52. Okay,
Yep.
so yeah, you nailed it. That's wow, man, that's an incredible day of musky fishing.
Yeah.
Really
How,
cool
how
story.
many 50s are you at in the year?
Uh,
Rather not say.
I might pass on that.
Well, okay, I know you've caught a lot. How many mounts do you already have? Like, is this gonna be another 52 up on your wall?
He's
Yeah,
donating
so
one to me.
I was also, yeah, I am actually. I also was lucky enough to get the big fish in the tournament that Tyler won in
Fucker.
June, the Bemidji
Sorry.
the Bemidji Muskies Inc. tournament. Tyler was victorious in. I also managed to catch one fish, but it was the tournament big fish, so I got another replica coming from that as well.
We got
So
some
that'd be
superstars on the pod here tonight. We were gonna bring up Tyler's dub. He's like, nah, guy's just too humble. He didn't want us to talk about it at all. So I'm glad you mentioned it. But yeah, I mean, Tyler caught how many fish did you catch in that tournament? You caught a few really nice ones, didn't you?
Yeah, I caught 4 or 4.
Yeah, it was
Yeah, I
4.
think
It was
4. Yep. So with one, 52 and a half was my biggest. And then Alex had to beat me with a 53.
Yeah, it was like an hour to go too, I think, right? Or 2 hours
Yep.
to go. Maybe it was
Yeah.
earlier than that, but it was the
Was
last fish we caught.
Was he a little hesitant on the net job?
I was ready to stab it off. Just
Letting the bag
kidding.
hang.
Nah. I got a replica of my big fish from last year. That's hopefully will be coming soon, but that's all I need.
Yeah,
That's all I
what you
need.
Because what was
Yeah.
that one? Like 56 something by 27 something?
55 and a half by 27 and a half. Yep.
Holy
So
nuts.
that'll be going above the
Not
bed.
that big.
I know. I can't be as good as you, Brian. Maybe one day.
What do you guys got planned this fall? Are you guys night fishing until ice up, or what's on your radar?
Yeah. I work this coming weekend, and then I plan on being in the boat with Alex till 4 a.m. the next 2-3 weekends straight.
Nice.
Yeah.
If he doesn't have anything going on, which I don't think he does. If
No,
not, I got my own boat now, so I don't need him anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What
But
time
no,
will you guys start those 4 a.m. nights?
usually, well, now we're a little bit smarter. We'll probably go out an hour or two before sunset and not start at like 3 p.m. and then go till 3-4 a.m. and dying
I've
out in the
been
boat.
I've been super busy. I just moved into a new house here and been just trying to crank out everything that needs to get done before winter hits here. But so I don't really know how much fishing I'll have left in me this year other than when he comes up for a couple of those weekends. But yeah, everything's turned over as of about right now. We had a couple lakes finishing turnover while I was gone at the Musky Battle last weekend. So not really missing much, it didn't feel like. All the reports I got from my local friends up here said it was really tough and turning over in multiple spots. So, but we're much colder this week and it should be all wrapped up. So hoping to get out this coming weekend and give her a go.
Do we have
for
a
sure.
new moon or a full moon coming up? When is it?
New moon on Friday.
Friday.
Dang
Yep.
it, of course.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to be doing more day fishing, until he wants to come up and really just grind for 16 hours straight. This time of year, I love musky fishing, and yes, we've got some really big muskies. As we head into the Cisco spawn, but motivation kind of lowers, and I start kind of prepping for winter, where I just kind of work my life away. But
I
It's
don't
getting old on me.
I don't quite understand the sleep schedule. If you're out till 4 a.m. on what is Sunday morning, you come back, go to bed, and then how you getting up for work Monday morning?
We don't do that. We're not that crazy. Usually we just do Friday night and then Saturday
Okay.
night. And then I drive home like a zombie Sunday morning.
Yeah, but doesn't Saturday night end at 4 a.m. on Sunday?
So we go out Saturday night and then we
Jesus
get done
Christ.
fishing Sunday morning at like 4 or 5 a.m. Then we got Sunday to recover.
yeah,
One day
It's a
recovery.
grind. I don't know. I don't know
Ryan's trying to wrap his head around this because he's insanely soft with his sleeping schedule. So, he's begging us to start podcast before 8 p.m. because he's got a 9 p.m. sharp bedtime. So
What time
Yeah.
do you start work in the morning?
I'm usually up at like 5:30.
Okay, same. Same.
yeah, just
Let's say.
soft.
Well, I got
Soft
school in the
hands.
mornings. You got soft hands, boy.
I'm not the one that got sick from a few beers and a lack of sleep last
All
weekend.
right,
Dang.
relax.
That's-
Relax, buddy.
Wow.
I told you,
Dude,
now that I'm almost 40, my body's just shutting down on me.
Dude,
I
you're
got
not. That
freaking
text you sent was
sciatica.
insane.
Got sciatica.
40.
I can barely musky
Yes.
fish anymore. Can't feel my left leg half the days. It's just things are, I
Dude,
don't
you're
know, man.
30.
I know, but it's closer to 40 than, 20, I guess.
Yeah, it's true. You're not getting any closer to 20.
Yeah,
Me,
you gotta
me
do
and
it,
Alex
man.
felt the best Saturday morning. I think we woke up at 10 a.m.
I was very jealous.
Yeah,
Little,
very
yeah.
jealous.
I did next after day one on what we saw when the action was. I was very serious about that. Let's fish through moon in the morning and go back and sleep and come back for moon at night. And if
Yeah.
we did that, nothing would have changed.
No.
It is
No.
risky though, because you go back, take a nap, and you wake up to like 5 texts or 5 messages in the thread, and they're all
Yeah,
pose of
I
fish.
was
Well,
worried about
That's so
that.
funny, yeah. Because I remember waking up at, I don't know if it was like 10 or whatever it was, and I looked in the group chat and there was no messages. I thought we were blocked or something for a little bit. I was like,
Oh.
well, then I looked at it was 22 degrees. I'm like, man, we made the right decision. I feel so good right now.
The only
So
pictures
good.
coming in where people are writing Musky Battle 2024 in the frost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was overall really, really fun weekend. It was, for us, it was our first battle we've ever done. You guys have done obviously a few of them now, and Alex, you've been obviously a part of it for a long time. But one of the things that I think I took away from it was just like a lot of the people that were there were people that I either had, briefly talked with on Instagram or even done a podcast with, on Zoom, or have just kind of seen their social media stuff, but have never actually met them in person. So to actually go there and get to hang out with all these people was really, really cool. Everybody was like a little bit different than how I thought they were going to be in person because you just never really know. Like when you just kind of get to know somebody over social media and then you meet them in person, you're kind of like, oh, like you're a little different all in a good way. Every single person in a good way. So, um, but you know how you know what I mean? Like you just like, oh, that's how you sound, or just stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like
Yeah.
you just never really know. So I absolutely had a blast doing that. Friday night was so much fun. I think I got to talk to like 6 or 7 different people individually for a long time, and like every conversation is just like some different shape or form of musky fishing. So you feel like you do really learn a lot. I got to talk to Bob Parteka about Green Bay in depth. I got to talk to Dan Scriver about tackle industries and kind of that side of the business, and just conversations that like I don't have. Mostly everything revolves around either the metro or northern Wisconsin for me. So I was just trying to soak it all in that night, getting to talk to all these people. It was just really cool.
Yeah, that night was a blast. Friday night, the resort where we were staying let us at all their extra beer from the year, extra ice cream. It was open pantry. They were just trying to clear everything out. So
Yeah, really cool cabins too. Really
yeah,
nice.
awesome place, cool little clubhouse. We were all pretty stuffed up on beer and ice cream. Not sure that's an ideal mixture. Um,
Works though.
it did work, yeah. And then all of a sudden, like, holy shit, it's already 1:30 a.m. or whatever. And I'm like,
Yeah,
we
that was
gotta
wild. That
gotta
was
get out of
Yeah.
wild.
here and go to bed.
How
Yeah,
fast that night
I
went.
went to bed and I was like, geez, this is gonna be a rough morning. And I walked into the cabin with Alex. I'm like, I'm not setting an alarm. He's like, neither am I. Then I heard him get up at like 7 a.m. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I'm like, I'm not getting up right now. Luckily, he just went to take a piss and went back to bed. But I was like, dude, I'm still so hungover right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was me Sunday, and he made me get up early to drive him home.
Oh,
Dude, I got a
jeez.
family I had to get back to. I had a bunch of tests I had to do. Sunday scaries are kicking in.
Yeah.
And I know you can't share this on the podcast, Tyler, but your story of how you found out you're having a kid made me laugh so goddamn hard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was so
That
funny.
was hilarious.
I could share it.
Yeah, please do for the people out there. So for those of you who don't know, Tyler is a new dad out there. And he I was like, again, it's the funny part of like talking to somebody on a podcast about musky fishing or like seeing their social media. You kind of have like actually no idea what's going on in their real life at all. Like, are you married? Do you have kids? Like, what do you do for work? Like, no one really knows. So all of a sudden, I think you said something about being a dad, and I was like, oh yeah, shit, that's right. You got a kid.
Yep.
You can take it away from there.
Yep. I got a little 10-month-old right now. Eloise, call her Louie. But yeah, the story is so my girlfriend Brienne, she wasn't supposed to have kids, so that's what she told me before we started dating. And so I was like, oh, whatever. Kind of sucks, but I like you, so we'll keep talking. Anyways, we're together for a while, and she's my age. I'm 30, so she was like, we're not getting any younger, yada yada yada. Maybe we should start trying. I was like, sure. We weren't like trying, like we didn't like think anything was gonna happen. I just got accepted into school for law enforcement a month prior to that. But the day that she told me, we got in a fight that morning, or I shouldn't say a fight, a disagreement. So I was downstairs gaming with my boys, and she comes down trying to like sweet talk me, and I was just like shooing her away, like, all right, leave me alone. I'm like, I'll come up and talk to you in a minute. And she's like, oh, I just want to say I love you, all that stuff. I'm like, yeah, love you too, bye. Game with the boys, I was playing Warzone. So it's like, you can't pause that. Can't pause that game. It's like we were trying to get the dub. Anyway, she puts a bag of candy down. Like on the thing, I'm like, oh geez, wasn't that big of a deal this morning. But thanks. And then next thing I know, I look to my right and she puts the pee stick there, and I was like, "Oh my fucking God!" My yeah. So she bamboozled me there because I was about a month after her saying that. Maybe we should start trying. And next thing you know, got a kid on the way. And I was like, "Oh, this is how my life's going right now." So yeah, I was shell shocked for a good half the day, and then kind of settled in and was started getting excited about it. But yeah, I remember my first words going up to her with it. I was just like, "No, no, no. This sounds horrible." It's the best thing ever right now. I love that little kid. But yeah, it's
I
just a
thought for
funny story.
yeah.
It's just a funny story. It's just middle of gaming. She just lays it on me, and I'm like, final circle with the
Gaming with
boys
the
and wars.
boys.
And I'm
You're
like, I gotta go.
I
It's the
gotta
last
go.
game ever, bro.
Yeah, just log off on them. They're like, what the hell
So,
happened?
so how has the summer changed with having a newborn and getting out and fishing and whatnot?
Uh, so Bree and I, we got a place up on Leech. We got a little camper on at one of the resorts, Acorn Hill. And her family, her parents both got a camper like right by us. So that kind of, I mean, I got an
Worked out.
excuse to go up there. Alex lives 40 minutes away, so I wouldn't say it's too bad, Alex. I mean, I don't think I
No,
was
I
up
think the
there.
camper, honestly, it saved the day. I was about ready to take applications for a new boat partner, but
But yeah, I mean, honestly,
it worked out
come
nicely that you were
once,
always up there.
yeah, I mean, she's super cool with it. I mean, I tell her like, hey, I'm gonna go out. I'll spend, at least Alex is all right fishing during the night, because usually I'll just hang out with the fam all day, bip up there, fish the night with him, or maybe a half day Saturday or something like that, and then fish into the night. But she's super cool about everything. She knows that she knew beforehand that this is my passion and that this is like all I do during the summer, and I was obsessed with it and whatnot. So I didn't fish much during the week. Maybe bip up to like Alexander or something, which is close to home.
Yeah. And
But
how's having the new boat and everything now that you
loving it.
got that all
Yep,
dialed in? So
loving it. Still gotta add a few things to it, but it's already a big fish magnet for my buddy. Just kidding.
Didn't you just
He
get
was,
humbled this weekend?
yeah. That wasn't in my boat. If we would have brought my boat, probably would have smashed, dude.
can't lose the
What is
confidence.
Can't lose the confidence. But no, yeah, it's been fun. I mean, honestly, I got busier when I couldn't fish as much when school started, because it's like got two jobs now with the internship at the police department and then school and then working at the hospital. It's just nonstop. So sneak out. I can't do the full weekends anymore, sleeping in Alex's guest bedroom, but getting up for a night and get 16 hours shift up there fishing, and then just drive all the way home on bubblers now.
No more
So-
monsters.
No more monsters or ghosts. I do break them out here and there, but try to tone it
That's my
down in my
man.
old age. Tried to tone it down.
Good for the heart.
Good for the heart. Yep, I've been taking my fish oil. It's good for the heart.
I
too.
mean, we talked about that. Like you start pounding back those Celsius or monsters, and then you strap on a Husky Medusa, start ripping that thing.
Start getting
Feel
some heart
invincible for
palpitation.
like
Yeah.
45 minutes
Going
straight.
into
Like,
AFib.
yeah, next thing I know, I'm like lightheaded and seeing purple spots everywhere. I'm like, oh, this shouldn't be happening right now.
You should see a cardiologist.
I'm just totally kidding, guys. Totally kidding.
Right.
Oh man. All right. Well, any final thoughts on the battle? Maybe kind of, obviously the tournament's gonna, continue and it's gonna be fun to kind of see where it goes next. Obviously this is just kind of loose and we're having fun with kind of throwing out some ideas, but are there any places you guys would be interested to see it go or anything of that nature?
I think
Um,
you guys know I should throw out the idea of that lake out west, getting everyone there. I mean,
I
if we
think
can
I
find,
think Western Minnesota would be good. We've got better numbers, but still a really good amount of giant fish out there to be had. Um, good sucker opportunities if we do it in the fall as well. I mean, I always like. I think Western Minnesota would be a lot more fit. We've done the battle a couple times in Bemidji, and there's been some pretty good fish caught in some of those battles, but it is definitely tougher, especially later in the year when the battles kind of, with everybody's schedules, it usually just kind of has to fall in the later parts of the year, along with, working with resorts and stuff once they've finally calmed down from their busy seasons and whatnot. But I would like to see Western Minnesota too. I think that'd be really fun. I think a lot of fish could get caught. Um, but I mean, the beauty of it too is, I like to see new places. I love to travel to new places. I would love to go to Michigan, whether it be the UP area or St. Clair or any of those lakes out that way. I'm not really opposed to anything at this point. If Kyle's seems like he's already on it and putting in a lot of hard work to try and to come up with a plan for next year. So I'd have his back on whatever he decides to go with, and I'll be there. So
Yeah. I think one of the things that, from my takeaway from doing the battle is I think what how it was structured this year, I was definitely fully behind the idea. And I did, like I said, I had high hopes that those lakes were just going to be even I think on a neutral weekend or like a somewhat average or poor weekend, it still would have been a much better results than what it was. But I think the one thing that after doing it then in practice and like how everybody kind of went their separate ways throughout the day, would be interesting to do it on like a chain system. If it ever went back to northern Wisconsin, like even doing it on like a 3 lakes chain, where you have 20 lakes, but you're all on the same chain where you're on the same water, seeing other boats, seeing where people are at, stuff like that would be kind of cooler. There's other chains up here, the Minocqua chain, Manitowoc chain, Eagle River chain, obviously. Um, all that would
Being
be
able to
kind of
come in,
interesting.
cut Gus off.
Yeah, just kind of would be. I think that would be kind of cool to be all on, the same or similar bodies of water.
I agree with that.
Obviously, yeah, you have
Yeah,
to.
same body of water for sure.
The logistics of it are obviously got to take into consideration, find a lodge near it, and then also finding a body of water that can hold, the amount of boats and whatever. But yeah, because like at first when when I heard the battle was coming in northern Wisconsin, like, and if they said, oh well, we're gonna do it on the Eagle River chain or the 3 lakes chain, I'd be kind of like, we fish those a bunch and we know them and whatever. But I think after doing it, like that would have been cool, and that's just something I
I
didn't
agree.
know until doing it.
Yeah, because of like the not like diehard competitive nature of the battle, it's just like I always tell people, it's like a fantasy football league of fishing where it happens once a year, and
Hmm.
I think it'd be really enjoyable to be out, whether it be a bigger system or whatever, on the same body of water as everybody else, and getting at least an opportunity to just see somebody else catch a fish and go and cheer them on and go up to them, take some third party footage or whatever it may be. I think that would be really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's just something you kind of learn. You got to do, certain different things to kind of learn and feel out what you like and what makes sense because, there's a lot of moving parts when you're trying to get, all those different people to kind of come to one same place.
Has
It's
Alex, has
just
the
not easy.
battle ever been on one singular system where everyone's staying at?
I
Nope.
don't think so.
When we've done it, so we've done it 3 times now, I think, in northern Minnesota, maybe four, I can't remember, but it's always been kind of, okay, we'll designate some lakes, like we'll pick 8 lakes or something like that for the battle, but it's basically just a free for all.
Hmm.
So I think that, you know, I think that is another thing that, it kind of reinforces my desire to go fish something like a St. Clair. But I know that would be tough, also logistically and like with certain boats out there maybe. But I think Western Minnesota, that would work out. I think we could at least, if not get everybody on the same lake for each day. Like we have basically like 2 sections of Western Minnesota. We have like Western, and we have like kind of Northwestern. And in both of those areas, there's like, you know, three
Two
to
to three
five,
lakes.
yeah, 3 to 5 lakes total, but like 2 to 3 like primary bigger musky waters that we could say, okay, so we got 3-day battle here, or a 2-day battle with 1 day of pre-fishing. You know, we'll do one different lake altogether each day, and each of those, all of those lakes can, you know, they can support all of our boats. So
Yeah. I mean, that light bulb moment didn't really even hit me until Saturday, like right before the tournament was done, because the lake Gus and I were fishing, nobody else was on it the entire first day and the morning of the second day. So we didn't even see another battle boat until Saturday afternoon. And I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. Like they're out on the same water as us. And then like it got to the point on Saturday night where Gus and I were side imaging all these fish up on this one point, and the spot was big enough for two boats. And I was like, should I text David to come over here and try to help us catch some of these fish? Like they're all sitting right here. And like we didn't at that point, we didn't care about like, you know, winning or anything. It's like that would have been fun to be like, dude, come over here, help us try to catch one of these things. Like they're all right here. And once he said that he actually had a fish going where they were, I didn't bother doing that. But like if he would have been like, oh, I didn't, you know, we don't know, you know, we're not seeing any fish or anything like that, like it would have been hilarious to been like, hey, like come on over, like let's try to get one of these things to go. Like that would have been a lot of fun. So that was kind of where all of a sudden I started thinking like, man, it'd be really cool if we were all on, you know, even if this thing was like there was more boats on this lake, like it would have been really cool to see you guys out on the water. And that was something I didn't even think about before the battle at all. You know, you're just kind of like, oh, let's go and fish. And
agree. I think there's plenty of camaraderie to be had while on the water, you know, with everybody.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, it'd be interesting. And, you know, no matter how it's set up, it's still fun because you get the camaraderie side of things after and all that stuff. But like, yeah, it just was not something that even crossed my mind until like Saturday late afternoon. And I was like, it was kind of cool, like seeing where David was fishing and stuff like that. I was like,
Mhm.
hey, and I was like kind of trying to mess with him, you know, texting him like, hey, you know, don't stop, get out of that spot. Like,
That's
we can go
that's what
fishing.
I would enjoy the most is
Yeah, I was
yeah,
just
texting
like,
back and forth and giving people some shit, you know. That would be a lot of fun because there was definitely a little bit of a disconnect on the water because I mean our fishing hours were like 10.5 hours each of the 2 days, and you know we all had to sleep at one point, so realistically it didn't give like a ton of time off the water for the most part because a lot of people had to, you know, plug in their boats and take out and commute. That was another big thing, you know, some of the lakes weren't exactly super close to the resort, so that added time. So I'm all for the put everybody on one system no matter where it is, whether it is, you know, staying at a resort that maybe isn't exactly on the water, but everybody goes to the same body of water for that certain day. Something like that would be pretty awesome.
and like, you know, full disclosure here, like Gus and you know, and we all had hands in like helping pick the lakes, and we truly felt like they were going to be good lakes
Yeah,
for the
Sure.
battle. So
sure.
I mean, it was you know, the whole like lure of picking some of those bigger lakes is like we wanted to see some really big fish fall. And I thought it was going to happen. So it's just like it's one of those things like hindsight's 2020. Um, you know,
It
but
was just the conditions, honestly. Like even after Thursday, I thought everyone was gonna catch 2 fish, you know. So it's just the way it fell, conditions wise.
mhm,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. Brian, what about you? Where do you want to see it go? Where would you want to go? Where would you want to go do some fishing for
I
the
mean,
battle next
do you want
year?
me to
If you
lake
say
name
Chippewa,
drop?
if you say
Can I?
Chippewa, I'm gonna freaking
I can
It's gonna
answer
be
that
the
for you.
Lodge.
Uh, yeah, that would be up there on the list for sure. But I do like exploring. Haven't really fished in Minnesota at all. I would
I
love to
mean, you
see.
fished the Chippewa Lodge for like 3 hours and we were on the phone with AAA half the time.
Yeah,
And you
after I
really want to get
smashed a
back.
deer. Yeah, I really want to get back. Love that place.
We got stranded by AAA.
But yeah, I would love to see Vermilion and Western Lakes in Minnesota. So, I mean, really anything in Minnesota, I would definitely be game for.
Come on over and fish Minnetonka with me this fall.
Mm. You got a boat now?
Fishing from
Yeah,
shore.
yeah. We're gonna go.
For
We're gonna
bank
go
yanking?
bank yank under some highway, under some road bridges with all the locals, the true locals.
Yeah.
Uh,
That'd be a blast.
Just go yard
Yeah.
fish from somebody's $60 million mansion. That's
Yeah.
what they say.
They're never there anyways. What about you, Gus? Where would you want to see it?
I don't know if I have anywhere like super specific. I was just game for same body of water. That's kind of what I was saying before. I would love to go to Minnesota. I mean, the more opportunity to go over there, the better, just to kind of see what they have to offer now that we've been to two different parts of it, the Metro and Vermilion. Because overall, I'd like to just explore and do something new. I mean, as you already knew, Max, for the battle here, even though this is very local to us, we 100% put all of our time and effort into new stuff and didn't even think about going to something that we knew. Um, so that's what I would be game for.
Yeah, we even talked like, if not the Chippewa Lodge, like Hayward does have a lot of really good systems too that could
Yeah.
house
That's a
we
good
did it in Wisconsin again.
spot to meet up in the middle, since there's a good amount of Minnesota people in the battle, a good amount of northern, central, and southern Wisconsin people in the battle. That also wouldn't be a terrible spot to go. But I hope the battle keeps on going every year and goes to new places every year, whether it is switch up to go all the way to western Minnesota and then come back to Wisconsin and flip flop it around. I'm good with that, especially that it's late into the year and schedules are a little bit easier for most people on what they're doing. So whatever it
Agreed.
is, I'm gonna plan for it. So because that was a lot of
Same.
fun.
Same. I'll go anywhere. Just wanna see everybody and BS the whole time. So
Maybe we need to cut the fishing hours back a little bit, but I don't know.
More drinking hours.
Yeah.
Can't start till 11.
Can't
Maybe
start till 11.
could start an hour later and end an hour earlier. I wouldn't mind that.
Right.
uh
Well, is there anything else we wanted to touch on here tonight?
we're pretty good. Alex, you get any fights on Facebook lately?
Fights on Facebook lately. Oh boy. No, I'm disappearing from the internet this winter.
He had a
There
good
you
one.
go.
He had a
Are we
good one
gonna-
on Instagram a couple weeks ago, but
Are we
won
gonna
that
keep
one.
our
You
weekly?
you won that one.
You won.
Oh yeah, we were gonna start a new segment. Give us some feedback, you guys, if you want to hear this new segment. It's called Dumb Facebook Comment of the Week.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
Facebook Warriors.
Facebook
Funny to
Warrior.
highlight.
Facebook Warrior of the Week. That'd be a good one.
Especially get into the winter here. People are gonna be glued to those screens a little bit more, barricade from the snow, and they're gonna be going at it in those chats.
alcohol's gonna be flowing late.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gets dark early.
Oh
Just
yeah, I
forget what
gotta,
time it is.
Tyler, I
That's
gotta
not-
get to the gym, get my gym selfies in.
Yeah.
Oh,
Not the-
good God. Yeah, let's take those mirror selfies at the gym.
Nice.
Is that what you're known for, Alex?
No, inside joke. Inside joke.
Those pounders, they can rip themselves.
Oh God.
All right. Well, let's put a bow on this one. We really appreciate you guys coming on. Always a blast. Always a blast having you guys on, chatting some muskies, a little battle talk. Cool to hear about Alex's big time dub couple weeks back. So yeah. Like I said, can't thank you guys enough for your time and coming on. Really enjoyed it.
Yep. Always appreciate you guys having us and keep doing your thing here. It's awesome every time.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. We
Yeah,
appreciate
man.
you rocking the Muskies on Tap sticker on your truck, by the way.
Oh,
no
speaking of
doubt.
that, I need a hat and
I need a sweatshirt.
and a sweatshirt.
They'll be
Well,
coming soon.
hold off on the
winter.
sweatshirt. We might have
Yeah.
some new stuff in the works. So
Well, give me a hat at least. Jeez.
Yeah.
Just give me your Venmo.
Did we
Somebody
come
please
to a
tap this
deal
guy.
if he wants a hat? Like what were we joking about?
God,
At
I
dinner?
can't remember.
I don't
Oh
remember.
boy. I don't know.
Anyways, we'll get you
I
one.
thought Gus was
I'll
just
make
being
sure we
nice.
get
I
you
didn't
one.
think I had
Yeah.
to do anything other than pay.
I'm a nice guy. I'll send you one.
We'll just give it to you at the battle next year. How's that sound?
Oh. Okay.
That's really nice of you, Brian. Head of sales and
We're
marketing.
trying to save on
and,
shipping costs right now.
You guys all gonna be at the Minnesota Muskie Expo?
I will.
Should, yeah.
I won't be.
Why, Brian?
I don't know. I'm like 18 hours away.
Dude,
Whatever. How far away is you guys?
not 18
4.5.
hours. 4.5.
Oh, come on.
Where is it?
Minneapolis.
State Fairgrounds.
Oh, not doing that then.
Out of your
Left
comfort
that
zone or
city
what?
for a reason.
Don't blame you.
Yeah, true.
I'm not
right.
welcome back.
All right. All right.
See you, boys. See you, boys. I gotta get
See you later, everybody. Good night.
Later, gents.
We really appreciate Tyler and Alex for coming on here tonight to chat all about the Muskie Battle. Had a blast seeing them in person. Good little recap there on kind of what happened here in the Northwoods. Tough bite. Not a lot of fish eating suckers. Kind of a bummer, but that's all right. We had a lot of camaraderie, great times, and with good people. So. I don't know how much more we need to touch on here tonight. Other than, I mean, one important factor, that we put into this weekend, Max, put a lot of thought into this. The sucker names, we talked about it, I think on the previous pod or maybe 2 pods ago. We're talking about classic sucker names. I think it was two times ago. That was the Q&A one. But we decided to name ours after a couple of Will Ferrell characters. One of them was Frank the Tank. I believe, was it Frank the Tank who is not with us no longer?
Frank the
He
Tank is fully digested safely.
Fully digested safely. A non-photo release, as the Muskies prefer. We had Chaz Michael Michaels out there. The character from Zoolander that I still just can't remember the name, Mufasa or whatever, Mustafo, or I should probably look that up.
You should keep talking, I will.
But trying to think what else. I think I threw in a curveball in there and had Patches O'Houlihan going. Mugatu. That's it. God, I was so close. I was blending Lion King and Zoolander.
Mufasa sounded right. I was like, oh, that's it.
Yeah, that's totally it. Brian, do you got any sucker names you guys were using?
Yeah, we had, I think it was on Saturday, we had Trump and Harris back there, and we were trying to see who the Muskies were voting for.
Oh.
But I don't know if they would, if they ate the sucker, does that mean they hate that candidate or that's who they were voting for? We couldn't really decide on that part, but they didn't work. They were not that good sucks, so
Gotcha.
And then I guess on Sunday then what were the names of the first sucker?
Well, one of them was a reused sucker, I think, that got bit that we lost, and I think that might have been Chaz Michael Michaels.
He's a warrior.
He was a
the
warrior.
one that got bit was the new one.
Was it the new one? What do we call that one?
Jebediah.
Jebediah.
Yeah.
Jebediah.
He was a Jai.
He was a giant.
Short for ginormous, giant.
Jebediah. Yeah.
Jebediah. Yeah. Well, boys, highly anticipated weekend is in the books. Another one. It was definitely something. I hope to get up and do some more fall fishing in the Northwoods this year. I don't exactly know how many more weekends I'll have. I know I'm going to get out in the metro here a few times, hopefully to extract some revenge on these muskies. But man, muskie fishing expectations this time of year. Not it's always tough because you're going out for typically, they call it the big fish time of year, and I think with that kind of comes these, short bite windows a lot of times in between bites, and it can get tough when those 1 or 2 opportunities. When
I
those
think
one opportunities don't come or you miss them. That's the worst. It's when you
there's a
don't get
little
'em.
too much like, oh, fall musky fishing's the best. A little too much of that. I've had a rough go in the fall last couple of years. Give me August
Right.
every year,
It's true.
twice over. Give me August.
That's I think that's what I've come to a decision on, that August is easily my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could get
I
some insanely good rubber bites, insanely
I don't
good
have to
blade bites. They could be
worry about a sucker.
they could be stupid shallow. You can run the boat fast. You can run it slow. You can fish at night and catch them. Fish in the daytime and catch them just
Yeah.
fine. It doesn't matter if it's calm. Doesn't matter if it's windy. Something's going on. July is kind of like that too, I guess. But no, I'm kind of with you guys on the whole hype around the fall. I mean, it's gorgeous, but
Just
peak
so zero
season
or 100,
for
yeah.
leaves is like a week. If you're not
right.
here during that, and typically peak leaves is turnover. They kind of go
And
hand in
what
hand.
what is turnover the last few years? Like I was gonna bring this up with Tyler and Alex, but like, dude, the last few years, like
So
it's just been so prolonged, and like these fish seem to be in these funks for weeks
you
on end where
gotta,
they're so spread out.
so I think a few things that we've seen. Yes, they're extremely spread out over multiple different types of like structure and cover, whether it's rocks, wood, weeds, steep drop-offs, shallow bays. We've seen them in as as late as literally last week.
I mean, you were
Um,
just trolling what? You were trolling in how many feet of water tonight when you were getting your bites?
like 12-ish. I don't know, something like that. And then the other night we were trolling in like 6. I don't know, going all over, finding these fish moving up and down the flats. I mean, just as kind of Alex and Tyler were talking about fish moving on and off structure, some of these fish were moving onto structure where they would go in August. They're pushing up stupid shallow, and during the daytime, they were not stupid shallow. Like they're making all these heavy moves. But going back to what you're talking about in turnover time frame, one thing to be clear, obviously not all lakes do turn over, but one thing that we've found, it doesn't even matter where you're at. I just swear you find that like 53 and a half to just about 55 water temp. And the fishing, I don't know what is up with that temperature right there, but that's a dreaded temperature in my boat. I'd rather, once I see that, I'd rather leave to go find a bigger or smaller system. Whether it is or hasn't turned over or is in the middle of turnover, I don't even know. We fished a lake this weekend where we kind of found out that it actually was in post turnover, where we thought we were fishing during turnover, but there was such high winds that it was blowing around crap in the water, probably from the remnants of turnover. And that's actually when we got our bites. So we were just like, what's going
Yeah.
on? Like,
There there's
what are we
no
looking
hard,
for out here?
fast rules to this. I feel like there definitely are tips and tricks and ways to tackle it appropriately. And like, you've been catching fish up to the battle. We picked a trophy system for the battle. We still were able to squeak out 2 bites. So realistically, it could have been just fine if both those fish, got hooks in their
Even
mouth and
one.
stayed pinned. Even one, it would have been great. We accomplished our goal. And now you've been, getting fish to go after the battle too. But it's like, I just I don't know. It just seems like, yeah, this time of year can get really funky and unpredictable, and like there's a lot of these hard fast rules that I think people live by. And the one thing I've kind of learned over the last few years, it seems like, is you kind of almost have to just throw a lot of it out the window, and
Yeah, I
whatever
mean,
that each day is giving you is like you got to kind of go figure it out a little
you
bit.
gotta, I mean, underlying factor that's way more important than summertime is you gotta find the bait. 100%. Brian described it on their sucker eat. Um, Max and I were finding plenty of bait. Uh, and recently I've started to troll a little bit more, and bait is like super key. Whether it's finding pods of suckers, finding just big bait pods of fry of some kind, and then the other smaller fish will be there, and small walleyes and bass and perch and all that. But apart from that, I mean, you know, one thing I think that Kyle and I discussed, or maybe you were there, Max, or my dad or something, we were like, well, what do you do in the winter when you go ice fishing for, say, a walleye or something? Whether you're maybe not crappie, crappie usually going for a deep hole, bluegill or something like that. It's like, what are you looking for? You're looking for weeds or rock transitions that aren't always, super deep. So, we've been finding a good amount of fish in relatively shallow water for this pre, during, and post turnover time frame here. And then I've been trying my hand at deep fishing and steep breaks, and man, we're finding fish there, but those got to be some of the grumpiest frickin' fish that I've ever seen. And then I recently heard about a buddy of mine getting fish off of steep breaks. And I was just like, well, and we're fishing all these things during moon. So like you just gotta be really, really open to kind of find fish and potentially not super classic fall spots. Yes, definitely looking for cribs. The deepest, absolute deepest green weeds during the day. But like I said, just recently, I'm seeing literally at sunset fish push up into, half or three-quarters the amount of water they were sitting in during the day at last light. And just taken out of this last lake I was at, I'm seeing crappies, walleyes, and suckers in 2 feet of water with my headlamp. So it's that just gotta just gotta stay mobile, and I think the lake choice is extremely important. But like Max was saying, um, or Brian or whoever, the bite windows are extremely tough and short. So like if you do get a bite, it's probably going to be during moon. So that makes it harder to leave a lake because maybe the lake is on, but maybe you're in the wrong spot during moon. There's a lot of factors that go into that decision on whether you're fishing the right lake or not. So you pretty much got to send out a Hail Mary, hallelujah, some praise out there before you go to any lake you choose beforehand, and just hope that switch is turned on, because it happens with a lot of lakes up here. The blessing and the curse of a lot of lake options up here. So staying mobile as much as I can this fall, but also kind of trophy hunting. That's about all I got on my mind. Whether it's sucker fishing, hopefully casting still a few times throughout this year, jigging here and there, and then a good amount of trolling. Already getting kind of back in that trolling groove, which I usually, no matter what, save until post turnover anyways, because pre-turnover, there's always a really good shallow bite, and it's typically weed related, and trolling through weeds is a pain in the ass. So I wait till the fish get a little deeper.
Mhm. Right on. Well, good episode here this evening, fellas. Before we go off, Brian, what'd you think of the Packers win this weekend?
It was gutsy. Great teams win ugly. That's what they did. You knew it was kind of a trap game coming off a big home win against the Texans. Just a textbook trap game, and they didn't let it happen. Although at times it looked like they might have. Last second field goal again, the second straight week to win it. Might have found our guy. Was kind of hoping we bring in Rodrigo Blankenship for a tryout. Would love to see him in a Packer uniform.
Jeez.
But we'll stick with this guy for now.
Yeah. What'd you
I
think
don't-
of Malik?
I saw a video today. It was like Malik Willis when Jay Love goes down with an injury, and it's just like prime Rogers just airing it out.
He's
Kind of
got an
true. He's just
insane passer
balling.
rating. Yeah.
I know.
He's nuts.
I know. We
Putting it
traded for him
together.
for like a bag of chips. And this guy's just throwing 35-yard dots in like, 2-minute crunch time of fourth
That's what
quarter
we'd like to
games.
see.
Do we trade Jay Love for just like a stack of picks and just
Chill.
roll Malik? All right, all right,
Yeah,
all right.
no.
All right, easy.
Yeah.
Now, easy.
Cut him off. Cut him
Yeah.
off.
All right, it's getting late.
All
What
right,
about
Gus.
what
Oh,
about
go
the
ahead.
I was just gonna say, Brian, what about the trap games that happened for a few fellow NFC North teams? I know we had what was it, the
Oh
Thursday night
God, the
game?
Bears.
or the Bears for sure. You know,
Hail Mary,
That was wild.
insane. Yeah, I think
That
it
is
just
like
is that live.
so Chicago. It
Yeah,
hurt. Like it just the second they didn't send anybody, and just kind of played like that. You see the guy Stevenson was
showboating.
like freaking chirping the crowd.
Yeah,
All
the
the
play
wide
already
receivers
started.
are
And-
running down the field. He's like flexing on them, pointing
yeah,
at the crowd.
and then he turns around and runs back to where the ball's being thrown, and he's the one that tips it into the
Oh, it's
Commander's
so
guy.
bad.
Just like
So
instant karma.
bad. I mean, that
Yeah.
key card, I don't know how it still works.
Yeah,
I mean, you like showing up to the
try to
building and
get in.
doors locked, kind of deal.
Locker cleaned
Like,
out. Yeah,
that's so bad. And
That's
obviously
tough.
nice to see the Vikings lose. Sorry, all of our
Yeah.
Minnesota listeners, but
yeah.
Sorry,
you're,
not sorry.
you're fine. You're not Chicago, so
That's
Yeah.
true.
all right, Gus, hit us with the guide info, the socials. We're slacking on our Facebook, but we got it dialed today. I think we're back.
We did get it dialed. I think we're back, and season's winding down for me. I really don't have anything open in my books for the remainder of the year. I mean, if you're really, really dying to get out, we're gonna have open water for a little while. So if our schedules align, let's definitely get out there. Otherwise, I'm not gonna open up a 2025 books until the ice up here, which is gonna be somewhere around
Pretty
Thanksgiving, give or take a year. I'm hoping by December 1st to do that. I'll send a text out first to all the clients that I've had in the past, open up the prime dates to them, and then go to the public. So that information you can find on www.sugsfishing.com, SUGS Fishing. You can also find my Instagram account, Sugs Fishing. Facebook is Gus Manty or Sugs Fishing Guide Service. And then here at the podcast, that'd be great if you could leave a review, something like that. I know on Facebook it allows you to do that. Instagram you can't, but we have a Facebook page now. Finally, the Muskies on Tap page. So give that a follow, like, share it to your friends and fam. Spread the good musky word. I know we're kind of winding down in our season here in the Midwest, but to all those fishing more to the south and to the east, good luck to you as kind of your late fall and winter season ramps up. So definitely would be maybe cool to get somebody on during the winter who actually is fishing. So if you know of some people out east or southeast of the Midwest, let us know who you want to hear from. We'll maybe reach out to a few people and chat some river fishing or reservoir fishing, something like that, something way above our pay grade up here on the lakes. So without further ado, I think that closes it
All right, everybody.
everybody.
This is an episode of Muskies on Tap. Shout out to Tyler and Alex for coming on this week. Incredible weekend at the battle. Shout out to Buckatabon Lodge for hosting us. Looking forward to another fishing time this fall in the future coming up. Maybe one more time before Thanksgiving. But in the meantime, this weekend, Ohio State, Penn State, game of the year. And as Jameis Winston said, you can't say the sky's the limit when people are on the moon. Remember that this week, guys. And whatever you are doing, good luck.
That's our profit right there,
It's
James.
incredible. Pain.
Where was the pain? There's just pain.
Pain everywhere.
Yeah. There was pain. Pain there.